Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Insurance Journal's Academy of Insurance's weekly webinar after show. I'm your host, George, and joining me for the after show today is the director of the Academy of Insurance, Mr. Patrick Raitt. Welcome, Patrick. And our instructor. Today's class was the U.S. Legal System and Legal Liability, and our instructor, Brenda Wells, Dr. Brenda Wells. Brenda, welcome. Great to see you at
Thank
the after
you.
show.
Thank you, George.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. So the legal system is complicated and so is liability, but you summed it up in an hour. Or did you sum it up? Could you have done a class on just duties or a class just on civil versus criminal, or was it hard to take that subject and kind of condense it into an hour? I mean, you also had a lot of questions at the end, so I mean, we could have probably gone on more. Like, what do you think? Was it difficult to kind of put it in this format, or was it easy, or can we ever know everything about legal liability?
It's one of those things that you can talk about over and over again. And, we've got a very prominent trial going on right now that I'm not touching. I'm not going to discuss it at all.
Probably wise.
But there will be lessons from that.
Maybe your next class for 2025, because I also thought there was a remark about liability towards the end that I thought reflected on that case that was contextual, and you can't have liability. You can't be protected from liability against crimes or whatever that you've committed. So I thought that was an interesting. Did you put that in
Yeah.
there on purpose?
No,
Okay. All right.
no, there haven't been any new trials in a long time.
Right. I had a question about, you said there were civil and criminal were the two types of, like liability or cases or court cases. Could we save the public a lot of money, or the state or the country a lot of money, if we found a third kind of liability where we could try you both for civil and criminal offenses at the same time? You know, like
Probably not.
crima civil, civa
Pro-
civa crima
Civil
vicious.
criminal,
I don't know, something. There's no third kind.
criminally.
Criminally, yeah. Can we invent that on this call? Let's go. Let's write our Congress people. Criminally. What do you think?
No, those
Crim
situations
civil.
are pretty rare. Most of the people that are on trial for criminal stuff um, don't have the means for there to be a civil suit. You know, I mean, your average garden variety meth dealer doesn't own property, and if they do, the government's already taken it away. So what can we get from that?
Sure.
So I would think not.
One of the reasons I was asking about that is that I think so. O.J. Simpson, you did a section of your class on his case and his trial. So he was not convicted of criminal offenses, but he did lose his civil, or the Goldmans won a civil case against him.
Hmm.
Do you ever think that one can, the word taint is loosely used here, but if we did both at the same time, we could maybe get it all out in the open. And do you think that a criminal case can then influence a civil case too much, or are they totally different and not influenceable?
This particular situation with O.J. Simpson, yes, it was definitely affected by the criminal case. The jury members that found him not guilty in the criminal case came back and said, "Oh, we think he had something to do with it. It just didn't happen the way they say it did." And the prosecution in that case did some of the dumbest things I have ever seen. You know, put on this glove, try on the glove, OJ. They didn't have him try it on before.
Sure.
And they're sitting here saying, this man was smart enough to murder two people, shower, get all the blood evidence off himself, hide the weapon, hide the clothes, get to his house in under an hour. And at the last minute, he went, I forgot this glove. I'll just throw it in my backyard. No, but it's not that stupid. Um, so there was a lot of problems with that case. Um, I'm no lawyer, but I I found the case to be a lot of drama, a lot of hysteria. Uh, it was all on TV, and everybody was posturing, and the lawyers were performing, if you will, and there was just a lot of problems with it. Um, and, to be very honest, the reactions to the not guilty verdict were split almost evenly down racial lines. Um, you know, and I had people in my Georgia family where I'm from, saying, well, he did it, he did it, he did it. I'm going, not the way they said he did. You didn't watch the trial. You watched Geraldo Rivera at night or some other talking head who decided to summarize what he or she saw that day.
Got it. So one of the segments of your class talked about duties and duties that we where we have to live by, things like that. You
Mhm.
talked about how people that are trespassers and break in your house to rob you, you can't set traps for them. And you mentioned an
Right.
example of setting up a gun where they trip a wire maybe and get shot with a gun, and then if the robber or trespasser lives, they can sue the person. What if they set up a trap that wasn't a gun? Maybe it was they put some slippery spaghetti on the floor and they just sort of fell and sprained their wrist. Is that okay? I mean, at least they've subdued the person without actually incurring a gunshot.
Yeah,
I think.
I guess it would depend on the circumstances, but you know, this this gun thing wired up to shoot is so reminiscent of Wile E. Coyote. Well, I'm pretty sure the gun had Acme written on the side of it.
Acme, yes,
But
super super
in
genius.
that scenario, the homeowner was tired of being burglarized, and you would be too. I've been burglarized once, and it will freak you out if it kept happening over and over again. You'd want to shoot somebody too. Um, I I'm not saying what he did was right, but I'm sure he didn't expect to get sued and lose.
Right. Well, that's true. I would think he would not expect to do that. But no, thank you, Brenda. Today's class is amazing. So much information packed in an hour, and thank you for staying on a little late to take questions. It's all in the recording, so if you're watching this after show and you're a member, check it out. It's fact filled and super interesting. If you're watching this and you're not a member, join the academy so you can
That's
check
right.
out Brenda's class. Absolutely, Patrick, Rate, welcome to the after show again. And what do you think of the U.S. legal system in? I don't know if that's a loaded question in general. And wait, don't answer that, but answer what you thought of Brenda's class in particular. How's that? Let's just skip the
Uh,
first question. Let's go to
Probably
one
the
B.
safer question
All
is
right,
how about the class?
I
And
accept that.
just a fantastic. This is more than just an entry level introduction into liability and liability concepts, right? Because it goes farther than the umbrella of insurance. And one of the things that I always think about, we start talking about trespassers and what duty do you have trespassers, and in my mind, my life in insurance has completely ruined Home Alone because everybody's going to prison for a very long time. The Kevin McAllister ruling would be, I mean, we'd be trying this guy as an adult with all of the shenanigans he pulled. Uh, Not to mention the fact that his family flew from Chicago to, I forget where, to maybe Paris, maybe over into Europe,
Yeah.
to and leaving the son. Everybody gets to go to jail except for the criminals, I think, in that particular case. Brenda, you talked about the OJ trial, and
Mhm.
that was probably the first, and I think you'll understand this term, made for TV trial. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, we were in the very beginnings of the 24/7 news cycle, and court TV or other channels, and boy, that was just a media circus would probably be an understatement.
Mhm.
Um, and interestingly, there's a case right now that you're probably familiar with that I'm surprised we haven't seen more news or traction on, and that was the Alec Baldwin on the scene on the set of Rust.
Mhm.
The initial indictment was dismissed because of certain issues with the prosecutor. They've gone back to another grand jury, and they're working their way through the trial. And what's most interesting to me so far is there's I've not seen any civil suits out of that yet. But additionally, there has been a ton of time, money, and effort put into a manslaughter charge that has a maximum penalty of 18 months. Um, you know whether you think that Alec Baldwin needs to go to jail or not, that's beside the point. it, it's an 18-month thing. It's legitimately an accident. It's a manslaughter charge, and somebody died. That's tragic. That's not I'm not trying to minimize that.
Of
But
course.
my fascination, it continues to grow with how some of these things play out and work out, and how much time, money, and effort gets spent in all of these things. And like you said, had he been just Joe Dirt off the street who accidentally shot somebody, or he was some scale actor uh, that wasn't a big name star, this whole thing would have been done and over with a long time ago.
Absolutely. It would have been. Um, I have not followed that one closely, but I do sometimes think that the judicial system and lawyers that I've friends with tell me that I'm right on this, but it you get a different outcome depending on the inputs. Who are you? If you're a celebrity, we're going to make an example of you, or we're just going to pop you on the wrist and let you go. There's not
Mhm.
a lot of in between.
Yeah, it feels like in some of these high name cases that we've not mentioned all of them that could be going on or not, but there's a reason that there's a case going on, we'll say somewhere near New York, and there are reasons why they get treated the way they do. And like you said, sometimes a slap on the wrist, and sometimes that somebody really wants to come down hard. And you know, I just like a system that's equitable for everybody. Unfortunately, we've got people involved. When you have people involved, you have inconsistencies.
Yeah. And you look at OJ, he had a multi-million-dollar defense team. He had F. Lee Bailey, Johnny Cochran, Robert Shapiro, Robert Kardashian. I mean, most people on trial for murder have a public defender
Right,
who is not going to necessarily give them a multi-million-dollar defense.
for sure.
Um, I know around the time of the OJ trial, there was another one in Texas where a woman had killed her kids, I think. And my lawyer friends there said she got convicted on a lot less evidence than OJ got not convicted on. So, there was, if you remember the late, great Richard Pryor, um, don't worry, I'm not going to quote anything bad. He said, if you come down here to the South looking for justice, that's what you're going to find is just us. And I'm not I'm not trying to disparage the South. That's where I live. But the reality is justice comes in different flavors, different colors, different styles for different people.
Brenda, I have one last question for you before I thank you again profusely for your help today. So, Brenda, you talk about I'm not a lawyer, but if you were the main character in a sitcom, what would you what would your profession be? Would you defend? Would you be a lawyer, but only for people that violate pottery law, like kiln offenses or something really strange? Like what would you want to do? And what would your catchphrase be? Or would it
Um,
be more of a like a woo, like a
Don't keep your
gesticulation?
coffee between your legs.
Yeah, something like
don't
that.
put coffee between your legs. That would be one of my words of wisdom. Um, I don't know. I'd probably do better playing a professor than anything else. That's all I know. And my catchphrase would be, my students would appreciate this. It would be cool off with
Cool off with that.
that. There's a story there, but we ain't gonna tell it today.
All right. So if someone has a hot cocoa accent on your show, you would say you should have cooled off with that, and
Cool
then look
off
at the
with that.
camera. Okay, I like it. Well, Brenda, thanks as always for everything. Another great class, another great after show. Really, really appreciate your time. And you were asked about how AI might affect liability. Like, is that going to be your next class, or what do you think? What would be another
Um,
subject that you haven't talked about already with the academy?
I've done AI before, but I probably do need to update that one.
Okay.
I'm doing something in July. Do you remember what I'm doing, Patrick?
Let me look.
Um, I can look
Cyber
to
liability.
cyber liability. So, okay,
All
yeah,
right.
that's a good one, and we can talk about AI in there some.
I'll hold off then.
Um, I'll. Hmm?
Cool off with that. We'll just hold back till July. All right. I like it. Ladies and gentlemen, cool off with that. It's Brenda Wells. I like it already. We're gonna figure it out. There might
All
even be a
right.
theme next time we see you. But Patrick, thanks for coming to the after show as always. Really appreciate your company. And Brenda, thank you extra specially for your knowledge, your warmth, your wisdom, your awesomeness. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I'm always honored to be here with you and Patrick. So thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. On
Absolutely.
behalf of our instructor, Dr. Brenda Wells, and our director, Patrick Rate, this is your host, George, saying thanks everyone for coming today, and we will see you next time. Have a great day and take care of yourselves, everybody.